Okay, I've got a tag to do. This is exciting. A tag by one of the greatest masters of original tags, book songs and other magic, is the channel, and I'm very grateful to be tagged on this one. It is the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy book tag. Looks like this is going to be a popular one. His tags usually are, and there's a lot of people tagged already, so maybe I'll be right in the thick of it when this goes up on Tuesday. But to get right to it so it don't take too long, there are 9 tags, including tagging people, which will be the biggest challenge. Um, Here we go. Got them on my laptop. Okay, so the first one is demolishing your house. Here are the prompts: demolishing your house. These are tags related to incidents in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which is a great series, which you can read or which you can experience in many forms. I think it was originally a BBC radio show. There's the books, of course. There was a British television program. There was a Hollywood movie, which is probably the least satisfying way to experience it. But the radio show is great. I remember listening to that a long time ago, and I love the books. Anyway, here are the tags. Number 1, demolishing your house. What books would you look for first to save from the demolition? Well, I'm going to have to go in the past for this because I have thrown all my books away, but I had a set of Edgar Rice Burroughs books that I carried with me for decades, even though I never cracked them open for fearing that the brittle spines would just break anyway. With all the Edgar Rice Burroughs paperbacks I collected in the 70s when I started reading them. It wasn't a complete set. It was probably about 30 books. It was all the Mars books. It was the first probably dozen Tarzan novels. Some other stuff. The Monster Men I had, which is kind of an Island of Dr. Moreau ripoff. I guess that's what I would save because I saved them for so long. When I didn't have to, I had to get rid of them. Eventually, when I got rid of everything, it was kind of painful. I wish I hadn't done it. Number 2, Vogon Poetry. Quote a poet, a line of poetry, or a lyric that you love. Okay, I'm going to go with I should have been a pair of ragged claws scuttling across the floors of silent seas by T.S. Eliot, or How I First Experienced It by Woody Allen in the movie Love and Death, which, and I don't think this is entirely uncommon. Love and Death, early Woody Allen movie, and one of his earliest films, was a parody of a lot of the great works of Western civilization that he liked. Swedish films, Russian novels, everything, and it takes as its name the major theme of Western literature, which is love and death, or love and or death, the two great themes of Western literature. So I saw it there first in the movie, and then I, at the time, was hanging out in Cambridge, not going to school, but hanging out in Cambridge, Massachusetts, going to a lot of revival showings at the cinemas they had around there, like they used to have in every college town. And there was a scene in the movie where Woody Allen's character's name is like Michigan or something. It's like set in Russia. It's a very funny movie if you haven't seen it, despite the cancellation problems of the director. Won't go into that as usual. He's trying to write. He's a sensitive intellectual guy, and it's set in it was before the Russian Revolution, and he sits down in front of the fireplace to write, and he's like, I should have, and he's gonna write poetry, and I should have been a pair of ragged claws scuttling across the floors, and he's really happy when he gets the semi-rhyme between claws and floors, which is closer in a Brooklyn accent, of silent seas. And then he thinks about it, and he makes a face, and he tears it up, throws it in the garbage. And it's very funny because it's a famous line from T.S. Eliot poem, and I'm gonna say it's the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock, or it's The Wasteland I don't remember right now which one it's from, which is a bit embarrassing. I do like both those poems quite a bit, especially Love Song of Geoffrey Prufrock. I don't really understand any other T.S. Eliot poems but those two. Well, I really don't understand any poems except The Love Song of Geoffrey Prufrock by T.S. Eliot. I don't really even understand The Wasteland, but it is cool to see it all laid out on the page and everything, and read the untranslated Latin and read about the background, how Ezra Pound rewrote so much of it, like give it a very heavy editing job. But it just comes to mind because I knew it. I finally got the joke years later after seeing the movie, or a couple years later, that it was a famous line of poetry used in the movie, with the joke being that he's throwing it away. It's not good enough, and then it's from a classic poem that would have been written 30 years later. And it always reminds me that very many times when we're young, we often encounter the parodies of stuff before we encounter the real thing. I think if you read widely, if you're curious about stuff when you're young, I think you come across the parodies first sometimes, which is, I think, an interesting thing in life. Anyway, number 3, 42, the answer to life, the universe, and everything. In the third book, I believe it's the third book of the Hitchhiker's Guide of the Galaxy, or maybe all throughout the books, we are given the answer. What is the meaning of life? The answer is 42. So that's where this takes its. I'm gonna pause while this engine keeps roaring down here. Okay, you can still hear him faintly, but I think he's far enough away. It was a guy with a homemade sort of lawnmower turned into a melon cart. Anyway, so 42, the answer to life, the universe, and everything. What is the point? What is the meaning of life? This is the third question, and probably should have thought about it while I was paused there waiting for the noise to pass. But the meaning of life is to experience it. It's its own meaning. Don't overthink it. That's as close as I can come. Don't overthink it. Just go with it. Try and stay in the moment as much as possible. Now I'm going into a real deep explanation. Stay in the moment as much as possible. Don't fret so much over the past. Don't panic so much over the future. The present is where life exists. Number 4, it's radio beginning, and this is a reference to what I mentioned earlier about the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy being originally a radio drama, and probably still my favorite way, although reading the books are really a lot of fun. What is your favorite memory in your experiences as a listener to the radio? Well, I had an AM clock radio, like we all did, in my bedroom when I was a kid in Reno, Nevada, and I guess it was just sitting there, and we didn't have TVs in our rooms or anything like that. We didn't have, back then you didn't even have cassette players, or I had a record player, I'm sure, but just kind of like a box one, without like its own speakers. So really the radio is the only, and I think it was just AM radio, or maybe Reno, where I grew up, was only had AM radio, but there was, I think it was Como, Komo, just listening and listening to my favorite disc jockeys. There was this guy named Johnny M. They were just local disc jockeys who played all the hits and stuff. And I remember a friend of mine once said, "Let's go down to the radio station one night," and I was like, "Why?" He goes, "To talk to the DJs, to talk to the DJ while they're on the air." And I was like, "You can do that?" And he's like, "Yeah, I've done it before." So I went down there, go into the station. There was a guy comes out. There's only one guy in the station. It was probably around 9 or 10 at night. Just walk in, no security, anything like that. This guy's walking from the bathroom back to the studio. He sees us, he waves, he goes, and he waves at us, and then he goes and he does the next record or whatever, and he comes back out and he goes, "Hey, what's going on?" We talked to him, chatted for a few minutes. He was a real nice guy. He wasn't put out by it or anything. Or there was a era, I guess they exist. I guess DJs still exist. In every town where these people who we thought were kind of like local celebrities were really where they made like no money and had to do like supermarket openings and stuff like that. But it was nice. He wasn't one of my favorite DJs or anything, because I like the Weekend guy. But it was a fun memory, I guess. So there you are. About the radio. Number 5, the towel. Oh, I have another one though. Later on, when I had, we didn't even have NPR or whatever it is, the National Public Radio affiliate in Reno at the time. We just had commercial AM stations. I could be wrong about that, but later I would listen in when I lived in the Bay Area. On one of the public broadcasting stations, they would play these Alan Watts videos, these Alan Watts lectures all the time, and they're fantastic. And they're all over YouTube now. He made a series of audio lectures, and people have taken them, and done their own animations over them. All the basic ones. There's probably 10 or 12. You see billions of versions of them on YouTube, but I really enjoyed listening to them at that time. And unfortunately now, with the age we live in, there's also a bunch of fake Alan Watts videos where people do they get an AI voice that kind of sounds like Alan Watts and they put it over some other stuff. But you can kind of tell the authentic ones, and they're done in front of an audience, so you can hear laughter and you can hear smoking and you can hear you can hear him inhaling from smoking, and he died very young because of smoking and alcohol. So take everything with a grain of salt that any spiritual person says to you, but it's fun to listen to anyway, and it's very thought-provoking stuff. And probably goes back to my answer for number 3 about the meaning of life. I probably learned it all at that time. Uh-oh. Okay, so that's the radio beginning. Then number 5, and I'll also throw in for radio beginnings, at that same time, that same radio station was rerunning some BBC greats, and they did rerun The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy at the time. There was also running at that time on NPR, and a radio adaptation of the Star Wars movies, which were kind of good because they had some of the same actors in that. So there were radio plays online at that time, which I'm always fascinated by. I still like radio plays. Anyway, the towel. What books would you pack for a holiday? Well, I'll just go, since I take all my books with me because of the Kindle and the books Palma. I'll just say what I'm going to take on my next holiday of sorts when I take the boat to South America. It sounds very romantic, but it's just basically on a big floating gym, casino, bar. I'm going to take The Magic Mountain by Thomas Mann, and it also has the same file has Dr. Faustus in it. So that's a good chunky meaty book. I suppose whenever I've had the opportunity to take vacations, I always try and pack a big, thick book that I can use the isolation and the being away from my home situation to enjoy like that. I remember once with my girlfriend a long time ago, my ex-girlfriend, we went to someplace in the Caribbean. When we were living in New York, we went to some island in the Caribbean. I took Paradise Lost with me, and I loved it. It was the best part about the vacation. The vacation was okay. It was like a package tour or something, where you get down and they just try and sell you a bunch of add-ons. And it wasn't really that restful for that, but I loved reading Paradise Lost. I kept telling her, I must have kept mentioning at the time because she would say to me, "God, you really are enjoying that book." It's not the most accessible thing these days, but I had read Shakespeare, was a contemporary of Milton, and it's a damn good epic poem. Paradise Lost. You probably know it as it's the story of the rebellion in heaven, where Lucifer takes a third of the angels and rebels against God, and so it's a myth. It's a Christian mythos. A lot of things we think about Christianity today. A lot of the imagery comes from that book. I think it's incredibly incredible piece of writing. If you're into poems, it doesn't rhyme, so it doesn't have that sing-songy effect. It's just verse. You just read it like you're reading prose. Of course, it is close to Shakespearean language because it was at the same time. Anyway, those are the kind of things I pack on holiday. I mean, if it's going to be something that other people, that like the typical beach book, I read that stuff all the time. I read that stuff all year. I'm not going to save, I don't know, a Jack Reacher book for the summer because I would just read it when it comes up. Or I do remember one time walking with my dad and his wife on the beach in Hawaii when he lived there, and they never went to the beach. I visited them in Hawaii. This is full of memories. This one, huh? And I'd go, and they lived in Waikiki at that time, which was not the incredibly expensive, impossible, crowded place it is now. But they lived in Waikiki. He had a condo there. They had a condo there. Oh, it wasn't his wife? Okay, well, they weren't married at the time. Um, and I said, well, let's go to the beach. He's like, oh, yeah, the beach. That's something we could do. He lived 2 blocks from the beach, and it was like the biggest surprise that anybody would want to go there. Anyway, I remember walking on that beach and counting the Stephen King books. This is way before ebooks. And I hate to, I guess I'm going overboard on ragging on Stephen King too much. Um, on my channel, but it was really striking how many people had. This is a long time ago. It's probably even before John Grisham was popular, and everybody was reading some Stephen King book, and that was their book of the year. It's like my 2 week vacation. I'm buying my big fat Stephen King book because they were pretty long at that point compared to other kind of bestsellers. And just an observation from the old days. Doesn't mean anything. Okay, number 6, the Infinite Improbability Drive. Name a fast read. Well, you'd think I would know because we're doing Shorty September. There are many, many, many fast reads. I read some this month. I'll go with. Let me think about it. I don't know why this came in mind, but Charles Bukowski is a fast read. His books are very readable. His either his collections of short stories or his 4 novels, 6 novels, 4 novels. I don't know, 4 to 6 novels. His poetry, of course. It all reads. It's all like of a level. He's writing everything in the same voice you would picture him talking to you in, telling it to you. So his books always go very, very fast. There's no barrier between Charles Bukowski and you, his voice and your mind. There may be, I guess, for some people, sometimes the subject matter may get in the way, but I really can't think of anybody else except maybe later Ray Bradbury, very accessible writer. In especially his later books, they're written in a very plain, simple language, sort of like I guess you would say the okay, another fast read. I haven't talked about this book in a while, which you should definitely read. Is anything by Ira Levin? Ira Levin, yeah, Boys from Brazil, Stepford Wives, Rosemary's Baby. What's the first one? There's a crime one. Those go very fast though. Those were like over before you know it. Okay, don't panic. Number 7. Name a book with great levels of tension or suspense. Well, I was thinking about this the other day when I was watching Faceless Booktube's review of the 4th Jack Reacher novel, and he's saying it didn't have that much action compared to the others, and he didn't like it as much. And I kind of agree that I don't like the novel, the 4th Jack Reacher novel, very much either. Not one of my favorites. And I recommend it to him. The next one, I think he'll really enjoy it. I don't know if he did. He's already read it, apparently, and his review's going up soon. It's Echo Burning. But, this dog. All right, I'm going to stop again. It's been dead quiet all day until I started this video, naturally. So Echo Burning, but Echo Burning really doesn't have a lot of action either. So I was trying to think, I guess, even when I was reading that exchange with Jay, what book does have a lot of action? I know that I really like, and I guess the closest I can come right now, and even then I'm not so sure, would be the early Mike Hammer novels, the first three Mickey Spillane Mike Hammer novels. They're I like the voice more than the. I guess it depends on what you mean by action, but I guess those are pretty good action. Pat, if you like action, you're probably gonna like those first three Mickey Spillane's. Some of the other ones are different, but he's not really acting so much in Eye of the Jury, for example. He's not acting like a detective so much as he is an Avenger. So there's a lot of action there, a lot of fighting. I do like violent books. Um, okay, so name a fast read, great levels of tension or suspense, and of course, I think the master, the final master, the final boss of suspense fiction is. I want to make sure I still remembered his name. I'm getting very old. Thomas Harris, Silence of the Lambs, Red Dragon, and Hannibal. There's really, I kind of think, I still think that even though he's not the most prolific writer, think that probably Silence of the Lambs is the most influential book on the suspense genre that since I don't know how far back you'd have to go to find a more influential book. I really think so much of what's coming out today, and so much of what people think is suspense, and that still comes from that book, and not from Gone Girl or anything, Gillian Flynn or anything. But I think he's the master of suspense. I've read all his Hannibal Lecter books. I still want to read his first novel, Black Sunday, and his final to this point novel, which was his first post Hannibal Lecter novel, which get very good reviews, but people are mad that they're not about Hannibal Lecter, so they don't really sell very well. So that's just the nature of readership. You know, if you're doing one thing and you're doing it really well, nobody cares about you doing anything else. So that's the problem that Conan Doyle had. Okay, that's 11 suspense. 8. Number 8, TV and film adaptations. See, these are really good prompts that are really cover all aspects of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the universe, and everything that went on with those books while they were around. So anyway, TV and film adaptations, of course, very important thing to discuss when you're talking about Hitchhiker's Guide, because there's books, there's movies, there's everything. I'm sure there's graphic novels. I don't know. There's probably another movie in development right now. There's probably a streaming series in development right now. I don't know if there's a stage play. I don't know why there wouldn't be. There's probably a musical in development. But TV and film adaptations. Pick a book to discuss. One or more TV or film adaptations that you know of the book. Pick good and bad if it's relevant to the book. Well, I guess I could do... An odd one is Frankenstein, because there are some great Frankenstein movies, and there is really... Maybe Guillermo del Toro will change this. I don't think so. I'm the guy standing up in the meme, the Rockwell painting meme of the guy saying the stupid thing that everybody likes. I really am not a big Guillermo del Toro fan. I like a couple of his early movies, but his later movies just seem like kind of lifeless reimaginations of things. He's doing Frankenstein. Maybe he'll do a faithful adaptation. There really is. It's so odd that there is. When you read the book Frankenstein, you'll see what I mean if you haven't read it yet. And they take the concept, and there's even a movie, 1970s two-part TV movie, written by Christopher Isherwood, I think, or co-written by Christopher Isherwood. It was called Frankenstein: The True Story, with Michael Cera, and it's a kind of a queer interpretation. I mean, people, I'm not a college guy, so I don't know. There's many interpretations of these books. I think that's kind of a common one for Mary Shelley that people have decided on. But even that, and I remember watching it as a kid when it came on. Of course, I missed a lot of the postmodern metafictional tropes in that version. At that time, I watched it a couple of years ago, and it is pretty fun to watch on that level to see what they're going for. But it is not faithful. It's a little more faithful in that it goes to the Arctic or the Antarctic. I think it's the Arctic, um, which it looks like, it has the ship and the Arctic elements of the original novel, and it looks like Guillermo del Toro has that too. But most of the famous interpretations, the Universal movies, the Hammer movies, various Spanish horror movies and different things, they really kind of broadly riff on the first movie, the James Whale movie, more than on the books. And they're not faithful adaptations at all. The monster is very different. The monster is strange looking, but he's not like a lumbering, brainless oaf. He's probably superior to everybody. The problem with the creature in the books is he's probably superior to human beings, and that's probably the danger. But it's a really complicated story, and I guess it doesn't appeal to filmmakers the way that, like, the broad concept of a man creating life from dead bodies, sewing them together, and in a kind of gothic story. Uh, I think the broad strokes are what the story became, and not as much as what Mary Shelley intended. But the book is so good. It's so complex. It's written in. I don't see why they can't do it, especially now in the streaming era. Why they can't do it as a 4 hour miniseries or something, even though it's not that long of a book, but it has many different elements that they'd probably have to put together and spread out if they wanted to justify the budget and all that. So, I don't know. Another one is probably the best adaptation is still of anything is probably the Maltese Falcon, which is so faithful. Which that I'm talking about the John Huston one in the 30s. That's an interesting case study too, because that's Dashiell Hammett's most famous novel, I guess. Probably the most important, probably I guess the seminal private eye novel, right? Really puts all the tropes in there. And he kind of said it all. I mean, there were others before that, and there were others contemporary, but I think it's generally acknowledged that Dashiell Hammett wrote the perfect private eye novel, San Francisco private eye novel, with, guy in the slouchy hat with his name on the door, kind of thing, on the glass door, and deceptive clients and all that stuff. You couldn't have Chinatown without without the Maltese Falcon. And then Marlowe Chandler, took that concept and ran with it with his L.A. Private Eye, or his Southern California Private Eye, Philip Marlowe. So, but Maltese Falcon was adapted twice, or three times actually, in like the first decade of the talkies. So obviously it was a property that people liked. It was made into a movie, I think in 32 or 33, which okay, I'll be catty here, which the snotty cineasts claim is a better movie, and it's not. It is not in any shape or form better than the John Huston version that came a few years later. But people like it because it's pre-code, so it has a few things that are implied sexual things, and that are implied, that are more pushed into the background in the John Huston version, the Humphrey Bogart version. But come on, I mean, the acting's wooden, the sound is horrible because they hadn't figured out how to mic people on sound stages yet. It was like the first 1 or 2 years of sound movies. It's just mediocre. Put the camera down, film the stage play. And John Huston is one of the world's great directors, and he took one of the world's great crime stories, and they let him do it because the first movie they couldn't release anymore because they would have had to reshoot. There's kind of like almost a strip scene where Marlowe makes Bridget O'Shaughnessy strip so he can search her, and it's a little bit, and it's not like what it would be today or anything, but it's a little bit risque in that earlier version. But mediocre actor, mediocre cast, bad sound. There's nobody in it compared to the cast of the Bogart one, which had Bogart, Sidney Greenstreet in his first movie, I think, or his second movie. Um, Peter Lorre, oh my God, it's so great, uh, and still one of the great classics of film noir that you kind of gotta see to believe. And it is not even as good as for just for pure fun of movie watching. The one to see beyond anything else is The Big Sleep, where Humphrey Bogart plays Philip Marlowe, and the femme fatale is God, oh man, my brain is going. Um, is Lauren Bacall, who I got to give it to over Mary Astor. I'm sorry, that's just the way it goes. Lauren Bacall is one of the great screen femme fatales of all time, maybe the greatest. So you got to see The Big Sleep, which is how I'm ending up answering my question about Maltese Falcon. There was, between the two versions of the two serious versions of Maltese Falcon, there was another one called either The Devil is a Woman or The Devil is a Lady or something like that, which was, they made a comedy out of it. They tried to make it into a comedy, sort of along the lines of The Front Page or something, I guess. And that was a bomb too. I think it had was it Betty Davis was in it, I think, and it didn't work that well. So I've seen all three of those versions, and by far the best Maltese Falcon is the one that everyone knows, the one that's a classic, the one that still shows up, uh, not on like did you know what cineast sites or anything like that, but the real one that would show up on TCM or whatever, and that's the Maltese Falcon, directed by John Huston, starring Humphrey Bogart, Mary Astor, Sidney Greenstreet, and and then back again. But watch that, and then watch The Big Sleep at the same time. They're great. If you're only going to watch one old black and white movie, one old Humphrey Bogart movie, I would say watch The Big Sleep. And if you're going to watch two, watch The Big Sleep and To Have and To Have Not, which is more akin to Casablanca in a certain way, but I think I like it. I enjoy it more than Casablanca. And you're good to go. So that's my movie wrap up on. I don't know why I'm talking about movies so much lately. I really should watch both those again. But that's my discussion of TV and film adaptations. I went too long on this. Sorry about that. Tag people. I think Gareth tagged like everybody. Everybody that I could think to tag. I will tag. I'll tag Faceless J, Faceless Book Reviews, because I don't see him down here. But I bet you anything, Kevin Toll Reeds will get to tagging him. Will be tagging him first. And who else am I going to tag? Well, if I could get back to my subscription page, anyway, as always, consider yourself tagged if you're not tagged. He even tagged Maeve. That's my go-to. Well, huh. Okay. Well, I'll tag Jay Shea. I didn't see him in there. I'll tag some of these people don't like to do tags though. I hate to push people into getting tagged in a video and they're like, well, great work. You just gave me work. There's another guy I'm gonna tag, but I always forget how to pronounce his channel. He's one of my best friends too. I should tag people like These guys have all been tagged. Well, if you haven't turned this off yet, did he tag Mystery and Mayhem? I believe he did, but if he didn't, I'll tag Mystery and Mayhem too. Should tag all these dumb travel channels I watch. And Obscure Book Adventures, I'll tag her. I don't know if she was tagged. I apologize if I'm double tagging anybody. I should tag all these dumb commercial clickbait travel channels and just have them make them wonder what the hell's going on. And a couple others. I'll try and do that. I hope I haven't missed anybody who wants to do it. If you want to do it, please do it. And that'll be it for, if you're still listening at this point, that's your own fault. I don't even feel guilty anymore. Randy's on there. Rainer is on there. Probably just need to find some more channels to... Is Reading Ideas on there? I don't think he is, so I'll tag him too. Who's this other guy? Is Roy Reads anything on there? I think he is. Scally Danling about books. Oh, and I lost the page. Okay. I guess I need to spread my wings a bit more and find some new YouTubers to follow. Spread Bookjoy, is she tagged on there? Probably. I need to find some newer channels, some younger channels to follow. So if you want to suggest some that I haven't followed, or if you've got a channel you don't think I'm following you, put it in the comments, or tag me, or do the tag and then tag me and tell me that I'm not following you so that I can follow you. The Mild Rumpus, was he tagged on here? So dumb. I can't believe I'm doing this here. Some of these people haven't posted in a while, of course, so. All right, I'll tag some people. You do it yourself. You tag some people. You tag me so I can see that if this is the reason you're watching it. If this is the reason you're doing the tag me so I know that you saw this. Please like and subscribe. Please join my Substack. Please buy tickets to the Riyadh Comedy Festival, where I will be performing with all the other sellout comedians this week with Bill Burr and Joe Coy and just so many people that I think less of, so many comedians that I never liked, and so many others that I did like that now I think less of than before. So that's going to free up a lot of time in the future, because those comedians, those arbiters of those gatekeepers of culture, are all taking those Saudi bucks, and I'm not down with it. Okay, talk to you later.